Today's review will be a retro review and a review of one of my favorite games of all time, Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. Now, most people may be familiar with what inspired the Final Fantasy Tactics games later, such as Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, and the Knight of Lotus, but this is more of the original 3x3 grid-based battalion system that was created with the March of the Black Queen, the first game on the Super Nintendo. Now, as we all know, there weren't exactly many RPGs out there for the N64 due to the limitations of the cartridge format, but not only is this one of the very few that exists on the N64, but it's one of the most bold and best RPGs around that could easily hold its own with any of the RPGs that the PlayStation 1 had to offer. From the story, to the characters, to the gameplay, the depth, the customization, to the choices, it's all here, and it's all amazing. Now the story starts off with Magnus Gallant, a recent graduate of the Ishkat Military Academy who goes on to serve the Southern Division of the Palatinian Army. But not all is as it seems with the Kingdom of Palatinius, because the kingdom is essentially run to protect the social elite at the expense of the lower class citizens. And what happens when the lower class citizens who make up the majority feel mistreated by the upper class elite who are the minority? Simple. Revolt. And that's exactly what happens here. Initially, Magnus and his battalion, the Blue Knights, are sent out to quell a small uprising, only to find out that it's a diversion, that the rebels are actually out to assassinate the Prince of Palatinius, Prince Yemmel. With no other divisions in close proximity, it's up to them to respond. It's up to Magnus and his Blue Knights to rescue the prince. In this mission, you find Prince Yemmel. You'll find him taking refuge in a small town with his two bodyguards of the Central Division, Raid and Jill. And Raid is none too happy. Raid is a knight that essentially symbolizes everything the revolution is going against. He is the first of many antagonists in this game and is an arch-knight of the Kingdom of Palatinius, and he strongly, and I mean strongly, believes in the social caste system. Cold, deadly, murderous, he kills one of the rebels trying to quietly make his escape and demands that the Blue Knights kill all rebels, to when you finally capture their leader, he quickly goes for the kill, exclaiming, "Who told you to let them live? Who told you to take them alive?" He looked at these lower class people like, you think things are unfair, and yet you complain about the work is too hard. You complain about not making too much. You complain about your living conditions. He just looks at them like lower class people that do nothing but bitch, whine, and complain. So the story of Person of Lordly Caliber is a very involved one. It's political, it's personal, it's dramatic, and is supplemented by a strong cast of passionate characters that have belief in their convictions. Convictions and beliefs so strong that it can turn friend against friend, father against son, family, kingdom, army, or any other allegiances. People go at each other, and people betray each other, and people really, when it comes down to it, they believe in what they believe in, and if you question that, then fight it out. Which brings us to the first major big push in the story, where Magnus defects from the Kingdom of Palatinius. Tasked with the assassination of the leader of the Palatinian Revolutionary Army, Magnus defects and joins the Revolutionary Army, and as you guessed it, that puts him at odds with his childhood friend, Prince Yemmel, who becomes conflicted over Magnus's decision on his defection. So let's start a story of war over freedom and the liberation, as exponentially becomes more epic, especially when you start encountering other divisions, the Brigade of the Radiant Cross, the Bolmokian slaves, mythical beasts, your own father, your best friend, and even the denizens of the Netherworld. Because what medieval fantasy story would be complete without the antagonist becoming blinded by power and desperation of demonic arts? This story has it all, people, including branching paths and multiple endings. No two playthroughs can be entirely the same, and this was back in 1999. But let's start with some of the main characters here, and unfortunately this will be pretty brief because there are so many characters in this game, I would never be able to talk about them all individually. It's just not possible. So the primary antagonist, the primary protagonist of the story, Magnus Gallant, who is the main character and childhood friend of Prince Yemmel. Magnus is the leader of the Blue Knights who defected and joined the Palatinian Revolutionary Army, and I like Magnus. He's a leader, he's bold, he values his decisions, his humanity, and all of his allies in the process. Dio is Magnus's rival, later turned best friend, or, depending on how the story unfolds in the game, can actually turn out to be one of your worst enemies. He is a strong-willed and almost reckless recruit born in the South, and because he's born in the South, he is a constant victim of racism and discrimination over people who don't come from his same origin of the South. He shows a sense of honor, though, as he wasn't exactly willing to execute rebels in cold blood, but again, he told Raid it was unnecessary, but you can't really judge him one way or the other because he can betray you or he can be one of your good allies. Leia Silvis is Magnus' second lieutenant after Dio, who joins the Blue Knights against her father's wishes for a purpose of pretty much having a quickly advancing military career. Then you have Prince Yummel, who is Magnus' childhood friend, who is very timid, very uncertain. He was against Raid's actions and where he punched Magnus down to slaughter all the rebels in hopes that he can gain the power and the strength to become a stronger ruler so he doesn't have to rule like a tyrant. Now the graphics are nicely hand-drawn sprites with pre-rendered backgrounds with all the overworld being 3D, and I think the character sprites, even to today, and the pre-rendered backgrounds look nice and they actually hold up, as I said, to today. Now as far as the 3D overworld goes, they could, leave a lot to be desired, let me just put it that way. There's plenty of variety when it comes to environments, from deserts, marshes, plains, mountains, and snow, with plenty of particle effects to boot for spells and magic while in battle. The music? Oh man. This isn't Xenoblade Chronicles X, people. This game has one of the best scores around, and every theme burns with passion, whether it's trying to convey happiness, sadness, intensity, mystery, or ferocity. Though I guess the sound effects could use a little work when it comes to the clashing of swords, blocking, and spells, but as far as the music goes, it is top notch. There are very few games where the music not only fits, but makes each and every situation better. This is definitely one of those games here. The gameplay? Oh man. Where do I start with the gameplay here? Battles take place within squads, and squads are deployed from their main base on the overworld. Each squad can consist of up to 5 units depending if they're heavy or light, and they are based on a 3x3 grid. Some examples of how combat can take place are that melee units can attack twice from the front row, while ranged units, they can attack twice from the back row. Now, if a squad is attacked on the side or its rear, then the situation, the formation of the squad can be in reverse. For example, the archers may be in the front, and the melee attackers may be in the back, which reverses their stat order, and archers can only attack once in the front, and melee units can only attack once in the back, thus putting you at a disadvantage if you're not attacked head-on. But then again, you can gain a better advantage if you attack people from the side, from the rear, or even when they're camping, which they have to camp, or they're forced to camp, if their unit is tired and can't continue from traveling across the overworld. You are able to give out commands such as attack strongest, attack weakest, attack leader, or just attack anybody, which is very useful because killing the leader can actually make a squad dysfunctional, because without the leader, every squad has one unit designated as a leader. If the unit is killed, then the squad does not function and just wanders around aimlessly in panic. Now, mages and other magic users, they can actually combine attacks. It's kind of like Gunstar heroes, where you can double up on things, or you can mix and match and get varied results, and come up with all kinds of different things like that. And there are plenty of classes, from knights to archers to valkyries to sirens, mages, Cerberuses, dragons, griffins, pumpkin heads, dragoons, beast tamers, any kind of class you can think of, like within the whole medieval realm or Final Fantasy realm, you're going to find in this game. Your standard equipment item usage is all present here in stat building. Visit towns, buy equipment, sell equipment, trade equipment, transfer units, create squads, disband squads. All that's pretty much self-explanatory. Death is permanent. Yes, death is permanent, people. If you lose a unit, the unit is gone. You can revive them over at a witch, but if you lose a squad, then I believe your squad is completely wiped out, and you cannot revive a squad no matter what. So, overall, this game is just amazing, from the main story to even the side quests. My only complaint would be that the battle sounds are kind of lacking, and the overall pacing, I believe, is a little bit too slow. I feel even if you have the game set to the highest speed of the characters on the overworld map, they move a little bit too slow. Now, this is a niche title and a niche game in a niche genre, but if it's your style of game, I highly recommend it.